Alright, so this is help on reference angles. It's also going to be based off of the Go formative questions. So something that I found really cool that will probably help you with reference angles is if it's in the first quadrant, so this quadrant right here, the reference angle is the angle given. Okay? So if it's anywhere between 0 to 90 degrees, the angle itself is the reference angle. Okay? So then let's look at quadrant 2, so the one that's to the left. It says the reference angle will be 180 minus the angle. So if you have an angle that is between 180 and 90, what you're going to do, sorry, not 90, 91, what you're going to do is you're going to subtract 180 from that angle, and it will give you the reference angle. And then if you have an angle in quadrant 3, the reference angle will be the angle minus 180. So if you have an angle between 270 and 181, and this is the one that you're going to use. Alright, and then lastly, quadrant 4, you're going to use this one if you have an angle between 361, or sorry, not 361, 360 and 271. Okay? So that's when you're going to use each of these formulas. Alright? So if it's anything bigger than 360, you're going to use that trick that I told you in class. You're going to subtract 360 until it is less than 360. And then you can figure out which quadrant it is in, and then you can use the formula that coordinates with it. Okay? So another cool thing that I found, let me show you real quick, is this tool that kind of shows you what a reference angle is. So as I said, so first quadrant, the reference angle is anything between 1 and 90. So if it's 63 degrees all the way, then the reference angle is 63 degrees. Now if it's in quadrant 2, say it's 123 degrees, well the reference angle is going to be 57 because it's closer to that x-axis than the other one. Alright? So then keep on going. Now if it's in quadrant 3, say it's 240 degrees all the way around, then it's going to be 60 degrees as a reference angle, because that's how it's closest to the x-axis. And then same thing again. Now it's in quadrant 4. So all the way around it's 316 degrees, but the closest it is to the x-axis is 44. So that's my reference angle. And then say we did 360 all the way around, 0 would be my reference angle. And this kind of shows you if it goes more than 360. So say we had 592. Well, 592 is the same as if we subtracted 360. So 592 minus 360, it's going to be 232. Well, the reference angle for 232 and 592 are the same. It's 52. I can even show you. So let's take this back to 290 or 232. 232. It is 52 degrees as well. It doesn't matter how many times I go around. If I have it here, it's still going to be 52 degrees. And this went around 4 times. Alright? So that is reference angles in Crash, of course. Now I was doing some reading about how to better teach this, and it was saying that if you have a negative angle, a better way to approach it is that saying if you have a negative angle, instead of subtracting 360 to get to that number, you're going to add 360. So we have 945, so what we're going to do is we're going to add 360 because it's negative. So 945 plus 360 is, sorry, negative 945 plus 360 is going to be negative 585. So then we have negative 585. Well, that's still a little bit bigger than that 360. So again, I'm going to add 360 to this negative number. and now I have negative 225. So now I have negative 225, and that's less than 360, just the general number, not the fact that it's negative. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the distance between 225 and 360 because I can find the positive angle. So I'll do 360 minus 225, and that's going to be 135. So now I have the positive angle of negative 945. So if we think about this, going back here, let's look at my chart. So 135 is in between 180 and 91. So we're going to do 180 minus our angle. So we'll do 180 minus 135. And then in doing that, we get our reference angle to be 45 degrees. All right. Let's move on to the next one. So this one we had negative 40, and some of you were a little bit confused because you were like, that doesn't make sense. But here you go. So another trick with these negative numbers was to convert to that positive number first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add 360 to get to my positive version of this angle. So I'm going to add 360. Just because it's negative, we're going to add 360 because it's negative. So we'll get my positive version of this angle to be 320 degrees. Now I know the positive version, so let's go back to that chart that I had at the beginning. So it's 320, so I need to look for the one that's going to be between. Well, 320 is in between 360 and 271, so we're going to do 360 minus 320. So we have 360 minus 320 because that's what it said to do to get our reference angle. And then that's going to be 40 degrees. And that's my reference angle. Alright, so the last one on the Go formative, we had 570. Now this one, it is a positive angle, so we don't have to do any of that funky stuff. But because it's positive, we're going to subtract 360 first. So let's subtract 360 from 570. And we get 210. Okay? So that's a number between 0 and 360, so we can use our chart if we want to. So I'm going to go up here, find where it's in between. Well, 210 is in between 270 and 281, so our third quadrant. So we're going to do the angle minus 180. Notice how it says angle then 180. So we're going to do 210 minus 180, and that's going to be 30 degrees. And so that's my reference angle. And remember to double check your work. Make sure your reference angle is in between 0 and 90. So 30, yep. 40, yep. 45, yep. All in between 0 and 90. So there you go. Alright, I hope this helps. Have an awesome day, guys.